All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of DC iOS meetup. Today, we're going to have Ed talking to us about building a workout app with HealthKit. So, welcome. Sorry for the location flip. I know at our last meetup, I did say this was going to be at the Washington Post. Unfortunately, I ended up having a major organizational event I was partly responsible for hosting that involved a lot of people coming from out of town. So luckily I was able to work with Mac. We shifted it back to Capital One. Washington Post will now host the next two, scheduling pending once we get our speakers. But other than that, I think, luckily not much else shifted around. We were able to keep the same speaker. Virtual guests, as usual, you're muted. And without further ado, I really don't have much else to talk now, so I will go ahead and hand it over to Ed.
Oh, there I am. Hi, everyone. I'm Ed Arenberg. I'm based in Los Angeles, though it's great to know we have communities all over the world. Get this up. Okay. Do you see the screen share?
Yep, you are good. One sec, actually, I'm seeing it on my screen. Let me ask, one sec. Give me 1 second. I might need to call the people in.
Okay.
Please hold. The AV tech will be back in a minute. He has to manually shift the screen. I don't have permissions to do that. This is our first time being back in this room in about 3 years. And I think the last time we were actually in this room, we were presenting. So computer systems are fun. But yeah, I think, well, I can at least, kind of audible on this. I think Ed made a good call out. This is our first time actually having a virtual speaker since we've come back to a hybrid, mostly in-person attendance. I think it does show the power that over the pandemic, even though that obviously we couldn't be together, it gave us this ability to connect people across the country and across the world, and allows us to do more events like this where we don't have to have the speaker necessarily co-located with us, and that we can still go ahead and learn new things from new people. And it doesn't involve traveling. We can still generally be in our same areas and allow us still to make greater connections. And like, honestly, I'd actually met Ed a few other times before this with stuff like the DC, like the iOS Dev Happy Hour. I know Ed had been coming to a lot of the other meetups. I think this shows really just how that community has spread over the past while, and I think it's, just a really good sign of how we can keep going forward. So I mean, that's that's at least the one positive we've gotten out over the past few years. Besides all the technological growth, just that ability and that we can connect with people. And okay, I don't need audible anymore. Ed, you are good to go ahead now.
Okay, so everyone's seeing that screen.
And now we can.
Okay, great. So again, I'm Arenberg. And I have to mute myself. Echo. That sounds better. Okay, so
Okay,
I've been
so
a
I've been
developer
a
for
developer
many
for many
years.
years.
Today we're going
Today we're going to talk about
HealthKit and
HealthKit and
specifically about building
specifically
a
about
workout
building a
app
workout app
for
for
HealthKit. It'll be
HealthKit.
very
It'll be very
basic,
basic,
straightforward
straightforward
workout app
workout
with
app
showing you the
showing you
basics
the
of how to
basics
get
of how
something
to
like
get
that
something like
running.
that running.
All the code for this is available on
on
GitHub.
GitHub.
If you don't have
If you don't have
a chance to
a
copy
chance
this
to copy
down, it'll
this
show up
down,
a
it'll
couple
show up
other
a couple other
places
places
throughout the
throughout the
presentation.
presentation. So
Don't feel free.
don't feel
Don't
free.
feel like you're going to
feel
miss
like you're
it.
going to miss it.
That goes away
That
right
goes
away.
away right away.
So I've been a
I've been a
lifelong runner
lifelong runner
in
in
leader of many different groups from our
our
Christmas
Christmas
runs to
to
training group out
training
here in
group
Los
out here in Los
Angeles
Angeles
for about
for
15
about 15
years.
years.
I've run
I've
everything
run
from
everything from
55 meters in
55 meters in
college to
college to
marathons
marathons
over the
over the
years.
years.
That is
That
me
is
passing
me passing
Scott on the
Scott on the
track and
track relay
from several
from
years
several
ago.
years ago.
And over the past 15 years, I've built literally hundreds of apps for clients. I do a lot of contract work,
freelance work,
some
some
for
for
personal use,
some
just for hackathons. And today we're going to dive into
HealthKit.
So HealthKit itself provides the basic foundations of the database. Sorry, just reading the chat. So provides a background database to have storage for all kinds of your health data, whether that's calories, steps, workouts, runs, energy used during the day. It's a pretty extensive back-end database. If anyone's interested in the ins and outs of it, so you can look up the FHIR data store. It's FHIR. It's an industry standard created many years ago from the industry. They have lots of interoperable capabilities with industry-leading health record and information exchanges. So now we've got it on the iPhone, we've got the Apple Watch, and coming in iPadOS 17, you'll be able to get access to HealthKit on the iPad. So HealthKit itself should be straightforward, but it's actually kind of confusing. There are the limited number of examples that actually give you any useful information, and there's a lot of overlapping terminology that at first glance, the documentation doesn't really give you much to work from. So we're going to try to simplify some of it, walk through what that looks like from a beginning to end, how to build the basics for a workout app. So we're going to build this app called Arm Challenge. And the idea of the app, of the workout, is to hold your arm in front of you steady for as long as you can. It's going to be a standalone Apple Watch app. And that basically it's going to be using some motion detection and then saving those results over to HealthKit. And I originally thought of this app because I thought sometime around now we'd be getting this device you'd wear on your head that you'd have to hold your arms in front of you for long periods of time. But Apple kind of Sherlocked that whole concept by allowing you to just leave your hand in your lap to control the vision device. So fortunately, there are other kinds of use cases for this. For example, one could measure neurological degeneration. So from aging or disease, you can track the decay over time just by measuring the ability for somebody to hold their arm steady. So to set up Xcode, or for the project itself, you basically start an Xcode project, select the watchOS app, and then add the HealthKit capability. That's just to the sign and capabilities interface in Xcode, add HealthKit to that, and there's very little else you need to do. That will give you the basic capabilities now to talk to and interact with HealthKit. You'll need to set up a couple of permissions so that you can get access to HealthKit data, and then you can write to HealthKit data. They're the ones listed below for sharing and for updating the data. And when you actually start up your app, similar to asking for any kind of permissions, you'll set up the authorization fields that the items that you both want to share and to read. In this case, we have the types that you want to share. These are the things we're going to write out. We're going to write out workouts. And then the types to read are going to be a couple of items that will be useful. Heart rate. We're not actually using active energy, but it can be read in, and then be able to read summary of data for the workout. Then once you've got that configured, you just ask HealthKit to request that authorization, and HealthKit will present the interface to the user to accept those permissions. That looks something like this. So when you first run the app, it'll first ask for access to the types that you want to write to, let you review those and accept them. And again, for the types that you want to read from, so that you can turn those on and give permission as the user to read those values. Okay, so for the UI, we're going to have a fairly basic UI. This is pretty much all of the interface code. It'll have a heart rate up in the top left. The round counts, so we'll actually do 3 rounds of holding your arm to do the entire workout, and then the time elapsed for that round. You'll tap the screen to start the actual workout, and then a little circle in the middle will indicate the accumulated acceleration that has happened on the arm to see how much motion you've had. When that circle gets larger, it'll change color, and then eventually it will reach its endpoint for that particular round. At the end, the end of the last round, you'll set the state. You'll detect that we've set it to end, and we will then present an interface that shows the summary of the 3 rounds that we had accumulated, and that will write out to HealthKit. So that's the basics for the interface. We're not really going to kind of dive into how that all works. We're going to more focus on the HealthKit part of this. So first off, we're going to set up 2 models. First, a model for the round itself, what time we started, how long we're able to hold for, the accumulated motion in acceleration units, and then some functions to allow us to move and stop the actual workout. And then a view model for the presentation. So we'll keep a bunch of state information. We'll track the active heart rate here. We'll keep a record of our rounds, of each of the arm rounds, a timer for clocking everything, and then a couple pointers, properties for the HealthKit itself. So our HealthKit store, the session that we're going to execute, a builder, and a configuration. And we'll get into each of those in a minute. We'll also need some reference to the runtime. The Apple Watch itself has a tendency to put apps to sleep, so we want to be able to get access to the extended runtime so we can keep our app running. And then we'll need access to core motion to be able to track the acceleration. So for the extended runtime, you can add another capability for background modes, and that'll allow you to select the type of background mode you need to configure. In this case, we're going to do workout processing. And with workout processing, you can have a variety of different session types. Nothing specific to the type of thing that we're doing, but we'll use physical therapy for this mode because it allows our app to run in the background, and we get a time limit of 1 hour. If you can hold your arm steady for more than 1 hour, I think you're in the wrong profession. So we're going to leave it at 1 hour. This is how you set up a runtime session extension. You'll basically get a reference to the session, and you'll track the start. So if your state is not started yet, you'll start your runtime session. And then when you're done, you want to end it. So this will basically be activated when the workout starts, and then invalidated again when the workout ends, so that we're not burning off our battery when we're not really actually doing the workout. For motion detection, if anyone's worked with core motion before, it's pretty straightforward. You just set up your accelerometer update intervals, and that'll just tell us how often we want to get readings from it. And we'll start our updates when the workout starts. That will give us back some data on the acceleration itself, and then we just have to get the magnitude of that acceleration. Note that minus 1.0 is we have to take out gravity. So if you ran this without doing that, you would find yourself rapidly accumulating acceleration because it's also picking up the force of gravity. For this particular app, we're going to clamp that the magnitude of that to 0.1, just so that while the arm swings don't immediately end the workout, but we can kind of give a reasonable maximum to what that value would be. And then as we get each reading, we're going to accumulate that in our round. So this is part of the, part of our view model logic, where the rounds is the current round that we're doing, and then we call the function to move by the amount of the acceleration. If that accumulation exceeds 1.0, we're going to end that particular round. So that's our model for motion. Okay, now we'll get into HealthKit. So now we've set up everything else, the runtime, the motion detection, the views and stuff. We need to get HealthKit itself up and running. And there are a ton of activity types. So when you start up your workout, you're going to first specify a configuration for that. And you're going to specify a activity type. There are literally dozens and dozens of workout types that are out there. And I think every OS, you can see at the bottom, they're all conditional. Apple adds a few more. Unfortunately, they don't seem to have one for holding your arm steady, or for that matter, any kind of pose-based workout sessions, but something I've added as a feedback to Apple. So for now, we're going to be forced to use the other workout type, kind of the catch-all. All right, so the first thing you do is we'll set up a workout session. This workout session sort of configures the watch, and it gives you an overall container to hold and reference all the workout data that you're collecting, and sort of tells the watch that the actual workout is happening. There are a couple of functions that we'll need. The first one is called start activity. And I think this is a very poorly named function. It really should be start session, not start activity, because there are other activities that you start. So this is a very misleading function. It is actually the function you call to say that the workout session itself is going to begin. Then once you've done that, then you will begin a new activity that actually starts an activity. And so if you're doing a running workout or any other kind of workout, it's the same process by which you would start the session by starting start activity. And then when you actually get moving, you'd begin new activity. And you would give it your workout configuration and any other metadata you might want to hold with that. And each workout session also has a workout builder. And the builders are very convenient because they basically allow you to accumulate your information into one grouping that you can then save at the end as a single workout. Constructing it manually would be very tedious otherwise. So the workout builder allows us to do stuff like read in information from HealthKit, like the heart rate or any other metric that is relevant to the workout that we're about to be doing. It gives us this sort of convenient interface to record that data, read that data, and work with it. And particularly the workout builder has the data source of where that's coming from. We would set each one of those up for the particular workout session that we're going to do. Okay, what does that look like in code? Basically, we're going to set up the plumbing, how everything kind of connects together. First, we'll have our configuration, and we'll give it an activity type of other. We'll then get a reference to our workout session. It'll point to our HealthKit and use, again, that same configuration. We'll get the associated workout builder for that session, and we'll tell its data source for that workout for the builder is, again, back to HealthKit with that configuration. This part's a little bit of boilerplate. This is basically how you would set up any workout activity that you would do. But the key is to get all these pieces set up. Your session has a delegate, which you can set yourself, and that allow you to track the state of the session. Typically, you'll be the session will just be active, but eventually, if you want to be able to track when the session itself ends and then do something, you want to be able to track that as the delegate for that session. The builder also has a delegate method or class, and if you set your delegate for that, you'll get information like the data that you've asked the builder to track. In this case, we're going to track the heart rate from the watch, and that'll come through the builder's delegate. And in order to get that, we need to tell the builder's data source that we would like to enable collection for that quantity type, which is heart rate. You can do all kinds of different measurements off the watch, and you can even filter it by setting up your own predicates, depending on what your application is trying to do. In this case, we're simply going to read the values as they come through. And so this is a basic flow. We create the workout session, we get its workout builder, we tell the builder to add activities. So we'll get our workout activity from the session, we'll accumulate them together. When we end the session, we will extract a workout from that, and that'll automatically get saved to HealthKit when we're done. So here we are to start the workout. In this case, in our app, the user has tapped the start button, and this code would then be the sequence we would go through. First, we'd set the start date for this whole activity, and we tell the session to start activity. That begins that session's the workout itself. Then we ask it to add a new activity, begin new activity, and that will start the actual workout activity. And then we will kick off our builder's collection of data. So that all happens in the background. We just kick that one off, and then we'll get data back whenever it's available to us. When we finished a particular segment, so in this case, we're accumulating the accelerations, and when that hits our threshold, we will end that activity and start a new one. Since we're going to have them back to back, we don't need to end. We will just create a new one by calling begin new activity again, and that will start a new work activity and will end the old one. All this data is being accumulated in our builder, so we don't have to hang on to it anywhere. We can get access to it when we're done with everything. There's a few gotchas in here. You notice that we've been using the same configuration for everything. And that's really because most workouts can only have one configuration. There are a couple that are out there now, particularly like the swim, bike, run activity type that can have multiple configurations, which makes sense for that. You'd have a swim configuration, then you'd switch over to or activity type, then you'd switch over to a transition, and then you do the bike, and then do another transition, then you do a run activity type. But that's one of the few activity types that can actually switch. Unfortunate that you can't just mix and match. I'm sure Apple has their reasons for why they don't allow them. I have filed feedbacks for that because there are certain workout types that I'd love to be able to track that would be similar in nature to be able to alter the types of things that you're doing. So we'll see. Maybe it'll come out by the time 17 goes GM. Okay, so here's our the builder delegate. So again, as I mentioned, the builder allows us to collect data from HealthKit. In this case, we're tracking the heart rate data type, and our delegate will get a callback that we did collect data of a certain type. And every data type is of the abstract class HK sample type. There are about a dozen, maybe a few less, maybe 10 different data types. There's category types, there's correlation types, there's quantity types, there's workout types, series types. So different types of data might have different sample type. But because there are so many different kinds of data that you can collect, it's a fairly complex data type. And you need to pull it apart in order to kind of get at the specific thing you want. It's sort of like the measurement framework, where it abstracts a lot of things and you kind of have to then dig through it in order to get the specific values that you want. So here we are getting a data type, a sample type, and we want to make sure that it is a quantity type sample type. If it's not, for some reason we got something from HealthKit that wasn't that type, we can ignore it. Then we would like to get the statistics value for that particular quantity type. And then I wrote a little helper function to kind of parse apart that statistic. In this case, we're going to, let's see, we take the quantity type and we have to identify it, the heart rate element out of that quantity type to make sure that that is the type that we're getting. And if we do get one of those, then we've got to pull apart the units for that. And we're particularly interested in your beats per minute. So a bit of code to kind of convert all of that into a beats per minute value. And since statistics can accumulate asynchronously, we just want to get the most recent value. So we're going to grab that one and assign that to our heart rate property that's going to be displayed in the app. Okay, so when we are done with the workout, we can call the session end current activity, and that will change the state of the session. Again, maybe slightly misnamed, but it does end the current workout activity that we've got in the session. Well, then you'll get a callback from that. So that's why we want to be the sessions delegate and track that the state of the session did change. In this case, we're looking for the state being ended. Once it has ended, we know we finished with all of our workout data collection. So we can end our builder. We can tell our builder to stop collecting data. So we can shut off whatever sensors that were activated for that. And we tell the builder to finish the workout. That function basically collects all the data that it's been accumulated in the various workout sessions that we've added to it, the activities, and then returns to us an HK workout. That workout object, we can do what we want with it. We can keep it in our app's UI. We can log it somewhere else we want, but at the same time, it's also writing that information out to HealthKit for us. So technically, we don't need to save it anywhere else. We can always go back to HealthKit and query it out and get the data. So that is the fundamental aspects of all the code that we need. Let's see if we can do a little demo. So what I have here is a recording of my watch screens. This is the actual watch recording, which is a little tricky to do. If you ever want to know how to do that, we can talk offline. It was a little complicated to get the screen recording for your watch. But for this particular screen recording, I dragged into Movie and sped it up 2x, so it'll go a little quicker. This will show the app's first run. So you'll see the permissions show up. And then for the actual workout, I exaggerated my arm motion so this wouldn't take too long to actually play back. Let's see if it works. Okay, so here's my HealthKit access. I'm going to give it permission for the workouts. I'm going to give it all the permissions for the data I want to read. I'll start the workout. My arm is moving. Moving more and more and more. And then we finished our first round. Doing our second round. And then our third one. Okay. So we had 3 rounds of holding the arm steady. These are the times that were recorded for each of the workout sessions. And if we want to, we can hit the again button and it'll just start the whole process all over again. But all this data has now been saved to HealthKit. And to prove that, you can go into the Health app. And if you select your workouts, you can scroll down to the end of the workout tab or screen, and you can tap on look at all the recorded data. And in there, you'll see references to all the data, all the workouts that you've done, when it was done, how long the duration was. And there you can see at the top, that was the one I recorded for the arm challenge workout. You tap into that, you can see all the details on it. There's our other workout type, the total duration for that workout, the timestamps at which it started and ended. You keep scrolling down, that's the third panel. You can see information about the watch itself, how many calories we burned on there. And at the very bottom of the third panel there that we've scrolled down to, you can see the actual activities that we did. And again, we had an activity type of others, so all of them are marked as other. And if you tap on one of those, you can see the specific statistics that we recorded during the workout. Here we are, the first round was about 17 seconds, and so on down. And that is, sorry, I'll go back. So you can see it actually burned the calories. So as a bonus, this actually counts as a workout app. So if you're trying to close your rings, for your workouts, you can actually run this app and it'll count towards your 30 minutes of actual workout activity. And that is building a workout app with HealthKit. Okay, are there any questions?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ed. Yeah, I'll say for today, if you have questions, please raise your hand and then Ed can pick you out just because I have to go over to the console here to mute, so I can't keep my computer with me. Actually, one sec, I have questions in here, so I will actually keep it unmuted.
Yeah, I see Franklin's got his hand.
So I was just wondering, during testing in the simulator, can the HealthKit generate its own dummy data, or is there a way to feed it data?
Yeah, the simulator does have a fake data set. It wouldn't work with CoreMotion, but it can do like running workouts, for example. And I think that's the only one I've tried it with. But yeah, it does have a way to simulate that stuff, simulate a workout. Definitely convenient because I've written a stopwatch or workout app that's for track workouts, and it would have been a real pain to try to debug that whole thing on the watch itself. Although I've heard Xcode 15 is a lot better for remote debugging.
Thanks for the talk, Ed. Appreciate it.
Sure. I saw Franklin had a question.
Yeah, but somebody was interrupted, so I thought they were going to ask a question. I was asking, have you played with the new workout kit? Does that simplify the code that you've been presenting?
So I thought it would. And I was real excited when I first saw that they had Workout Kit set up. Workout Kit's more designed around building a workout. So if you know the kind of thing you wanted to do, like I'm going to do a gym workout and I'm going to spend 30 minutes on the cycle and then I'm going to go do 20 minutes of lifting and I'm going to do whatever, you can kind of pre-configure those workouts using Workout Kit. So if your app is designed around that kind of stuff, you can use it to construct the workout for the user or have the user construct it for themselves and use Workout Kit to basically build the constraints of that workout. And then you would then go and execute that workout.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I saw WWDC last year, the health app added medications. Is that available via HealthKit?
Yep. Yeah, I haven't worked with medication, but I have definitely some of the back-end docs for tracking medications. I was working on an app for elderly people, and that kind of dashboard kind of stuff, what you need to do today. And you just have to make sure you get all the permissions set up, but you can track that now through an app.
Hey, thank you, AJ.
Go ahead.
All right. Hey, Ed, thanks for the presentation. So I had a question about sampling rate for, say, heart rate. I did see something along those lines about measuring, like, your hands motion. But what's that sample rate for that you get from, say, the heart rate? Although we know it doesn't change much, but I was wondering about that.
It surprisingly can change a lot if you're actively working out. I was just watching the US Track and Field Championships, and they had heart rate monitors, live heart rate monitors on some of the athletes. And when they get into their kick, you'd see it suddenly spike right up. But the actual rate, you don't have direct control over per se. Just by the type of workout that you do, it may adjust it. So if you're doing that workout type configuration, you can actually set stuff like indoor, outdoor, and the watch itself is supposed to auto adapt the sensors as to the types of things you've told it you're trying to record, as to how fast and how frequently and how accurately it's going to try to monitor that information. You saw that what we get back from the heart rate is actually an array. And so you can actually grab all the data that it sent back, even though you didn't necessarily get it each individual sample. You're just going to get a call back when the OS says, okay, here's some more data, go parse it apart. So you may get more than one heart rate piece of information at a given time. So if you need all the data samples that you want to go back through, you can collect them that way. For our use case, I just want to see the most recent. In my use case, it seems like it's updating at least every second. That seems to be the standard.
So is that data like a time series, the heart rate?
Yeah, it's some sort of series that you would get as an array. Maybe go back to the chart. Yeah, you see here where it says most recent quantity. I don't know if you can see my cursor.
Yes.
Yeah,
I can.
Right. So statistics is going to be some class of stuff in it, and you can grab different kinds of things. The most recent, I think there's like average. I think you can get all the data for the statistic and such. So I don't know that some of the others may give you time data as well as to when it was collected. But I haven't seen it. If you just get this one, you're only going to get one value, and I don't know if it tells you exactly internally when it was actually gathered.
Okay, got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Ed, I was wondering if HealthKit has any sort of LiDAR or pose kind of packages or
modules within it, and if you know anything about how someone would do a project with using those two technologies.
HealthKit itself does not. I did work with a group doing yoga instructor kind of app, remote app, so that you could have it track. I guess you'd set up your phone and it would monitor your pose and make sure you were matching what the instructor was trying to do. That they had to do completely separately. So the vision frameworks, I think, is the one you're looking for. That's going to get you skeletal references for your arms and your body position. And then you'd have to marry that with HealthKit if you wanted to monitor like heart rate or calories burned or any of the other metrics for a workout. But you'd probably have to independently marry those together. What are you going to make?
One sec, shuffling the mic back around.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking, because I run, but I have some knee problems. So I kind of wanted to maybe do something that tracks whether or not I'm like striking correctly, or when I'm lifting weights, just if I'm doing it right, or maybe what angle is worse for my knees, and it's just kind of stuff like that. But yeah, that's why I'm interested in pose or maybe LiDAR to kind of get an idea of what the angles and motion I'm kind of doing. So yeah.
Sure. I think for the weight stuff, you'd still be looking at the vision skeletal stuff. But for running workouts, you can actually dig into things like ground contact time per foot. So you can make sure that you have some consistency between them if you're basically unbalanced in that way. There's a couple other pose kind of metrics that they have. A vertical oscillation, for example, you can gather from that. So you could literally look at left-right vertical oscillation to see whether you're, as a kind of consistency, or you're unbalanced in some way. But all that data should come out of HealthKit for you.
Might hit you up later, but appreciate it.
Sure.
Hey, one more over here.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. This is Eric. So sort of the flip side to what you've been presenting, I want to get the data out of HealthKit. Like, say I want to build an app that does presents long-running historical view of all of the arm challenges I've done. I mean, I know I can query HealthKit to pull all the results out, but it seems like that would be inefficient to like requery the same data over and over and over again every time you launch the app. Is there like do you know of any best practices for doing something like that? Do we persist like just a workout ID?
Right. So I've written some chart very similar, I think, what you're interested in, which would allow you to plot your past historical data. And I'm pulling all that data out of HealthKit. So you'd set up a predicate, you'd query what, the things you want. So you filter out other types of workouts you're not interested in. And it's relatively quick. I was quite surprised. I thought I'd have to do something similar to what you're referencing, was like, I've got to cache everything and only reference it when, I think something's too stale. And then it seemed like a lot of overhead to have to manage that data. But I can pull hundreds of reference workouts out of HealthKit, and it's a second or so, maybe two at worst, depending on what my query looks like, to pull that data out and parse it all. It's actually pretty efficient. Now, if you wanted to dig into one particular workout and you wanted to query it in different ways, like, well, you pretty much get everything from that query. So do you have a specific use case that you're thinking about?
I'm toying with the idea of like pulling out data from I just toying with the idea about pulling out data from like bike workouts and grouping them by distance and stuff like that, longest rides and those sort of things.
Yeah, that's exactly what my charting app does. and I just basically pull in a year's worth of workouts into the app and then parse them as I see fit. So pull out stuff like, oh, this looks like you ran a race. This one's your longest one, your fastest pace, and just process out. It's actually probably a lot easier to read all that data into your own data models. You saw, I mean, you can see here what it looks like to try to just parse out the heart rate. It's kind of similar when you're parsing out some of the data out of the HealthKit record itself. And so it's probably more efficient to have one place where you translate the HealthKit data into something that's more efficient for you to look through, and then let the user work over that data set you've just loaded up. That makes sense?
Hey, thanks, but I think yeah, okay, I'm unmuted now. Thanks.
Okay. I forgot it. Add my email. If anyone wants to reach me, it's just my last name at epage.com. EPHE.
All right. I think Steve, did you have a question? Other than that, that maybe is the last one. If not, we have one more in the room actually. So.
Hi, Ed. Thank you. My name's Mary. If I wanted to challenge my friends to this farm challenge, what would that look like given that, that data, the permissions and everything?
Well, let's see. Off the top
Or
of my head, you could possibly start a FaceTime share play activity. And then you'd have to manage the data yourself to shuttle it back and forth so you could watch each other's values, how long you made it, and then you track that. You never played with share play and the what's it called, group activities. It's pretty powerful. Done a few experiments with it and written a few little apps using group activities, and there's a lot of opportunity there to do stuff. I'd encourage you to explore that. Take this code, feel free, and then layer on top something like a share play interface so you can even challenge yourselves over the internet.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Steve put his question in the chat. Do you know if visionOS has a similar HealthKit SDK as the phone, access to data of the watch?
Grr. No, I was so expecting it to be there, since there were a lot of rumors about it being a health-oriented device. I'm going to guess it's just not ready yet. They've got so many things that they're just trying to work through, but I fully expect it to be there. I can imagine even just mindfulness workouts that you want to record to HealthKit. So while it's not there in beta 1, keep watching and certainly file feedback, because I'd like to see it too. I'd love to be able to take some of the investigative apps, if you want to look through your data and be able to do that in 3D, that'd be pretty cool.
As a side note, if anybody was paying attention, Xcode 15 beta 4 dropped today, but no SDKs actually came with it. Hey, last call for questions. Hearing none, thank you, Ed. This was a really great presentation. We really enjoyed having you.
Great. Thank you all. Had a great time doing it. Look forward to the next presentations.
Hey, give me 1 second and I'll share the ending announcements. Hi. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming. Sorry for a little bit of disorganization on my side today. I forgot to put the Zoom link to the last minute. Thank you for the people who posted and reminded me about that. Unfortunately, for those of you who don't know, here at Capital One, we actually can't even access Meetup on our work machines. So it's fun times. I had to kind of squirrel that on my phone because if I don't remember to do it at home, I can't do it. So some quick wrap-up announcements. If you're interested in speaking, please fill out the form, and you'll see why I'm definitely asking you that in a second. As usual, subscribe to the Dev Community YouTube channel. I'm a little backlogged on getting videos up. I did put up Mohammed's talk from 2 months ago. I'm hoping to finish editing the lightning talks from last month within over this weekend, and those should be up shortly. We still have the Slack workspace. We still have a Mastodon. Unfortunately, we don't have a Blue Sky or a Threads yet. We probably will not have the latter because I don't feel like messing around with adding a second Instagram account, but maybe a Blue Sky once I can get a second invite. And I have stickers for those of you who are here today. So next month, as you can see, this could be you. We don't have any more speakers currently, at least last as I checked as of a few days ago. So if you're interested in speaking either next month or throughout the rest of the year, please fill out the form. As you saw, obviously you do not have to be in the DC area, while we'd love to have you in person. You do not have to be here to speak. You can be a virtual speaker. So we definitely have ways to facilitate that. I'll have to check with Mac on the date. It'll either be August 8th or August 16th. We'll have to see what hosting looks like around that time frame, because that is also, prime summer vacation. But it will be at the Washington Post, as I said, for real this time. All right, and thank you, everyone, and hope you have a good rest of your evening.